Hi, Flosstube. It's Arlene here. It's Friday, April 5th, and I wanted to make sure to come here to do a Flosstube before next week when I head off to Arizona for Stitch Nanigans. It's a cold day here. Yesterday it was beautiful, sunny in the 60s, like spring was here. And today it's like, I don't even know if it's out of the 30s and rainy and yucky. And I've been fighting a headache and a cold and all that stuff that makes you just want to whine. But I really wanted to come and visit with all of you. I think I'm putting it in my title, a happy second Flosstuberversary to me. Last week, March 28th, I had looked it up and realized it and actually kind of wrote it on my calendar. So I posted it on Instagram. That March 28th, 2017 was the day I posted my first Flosstube. And what an amazing journey these past 2 years have been. For those of you who've been with me since the beginning, thank you for being there. For those of you who have just found me or found me somewhere along the way, thank you. So many of us who make videos say these kinds of things, and it's all genuine and true. This community has truly enhanced my life, and never more so than now than I could have imagined. And so I just need to acknowledge that 2-year mark. So thank you. And it would have been great if I had done a video on the date and been able to make a little hoo-ha excitement out of it, but yeah, that didn't happen. So here I am. I'm not sure how long this video is going to be, although obviously you all know how long it is. I'm looking at my little list, and it's just a bunch of little things today. But just needing to check in with all of you and share some of the things that have come up in my life in the last few weeks. I'm going to bypass the personal stuff for today and just focus on Stitching World. Let me just get into it right away by actually taking a sip of water from this. How time is spent at a stitching retreat. It's a Venn diagram. The little circle says actually stitching. The larger circle says buying and enabling. And the largest circle says shenanigans. You can't see it right now, so I'm going to need to stand up. My shirt actually says that same thing. Where, you might be saying, is this coming from? So I wanted to share with all of you, this was something I have given full credit where full credit is due. Last late fall, when I was beginning the planning and starting up for the New Jersey retreat, which is happening in August, I still get inquiries about that. The retreat is full. I have a waiting list. I'm happy to add you to my wait list. The email for that is njflosstuberetreat@gmail.com. You can send me an email and I'll add you to my wait list. As I was getting that started up in the Facebook group for it, and those who had attended last year were just sharing their enthusiasm and excitement that it was happening again. One of the members posted a little diagram that she was trying to share with her, I think it was her work colleagues or some people in her world, trying to explain to them the excitement of a stitching retreat. And let's face it, if you're not a stitcher, you may not get it. And in all honesty, if maybe you haven't been to a stitching retreat, maybe you don't, I'm going to use myself. Go back 2 years, go back before Flosstube. I sort of didn't get it myself. And that's partially, I've always thought of myself as like a loner stitcher. And the idea of, why should I spend money to go sit in a room and stitch when I could sit here and stitch. Now I get it. I get it. It's about being a part of a community. It's about meeting people. It's about connecting with people who get you, who get what you get, who love what you love. It's about having conversations at a level that is not the day-to-day thing of, sure, we might talk about work life, family life, blah, 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 but chances are those are not the first questions. The first questions are, what are you stitching? What do you love? Those kinds of things. And I am so glad I've been introduced to this world. So back to this little diagram that Lily, I will, because I've recently connected with her and shared with her about this. And I just loved it. So many people commented and loved this idea that she was trying to share with other people that it's all about the other stuff. Yeah, maybe a little stitching happens, but it's about the whole experience. And I asked her if I could take her idea and run with it, and she said, go for it. So it had been in the back of my mind for a number of months. I've played on and off with it, and I finally made something come to fruition. And this is a sort of a part one. So I have a design that I've created that is now available on assorted items, including things like tote bags. Again, how time is, so this might be the easiest one to read it from. How time is spent at a stitching retreat. Actually stitching, buying and enabling, shenanigans. I knew I'd get to this part of the year, and this is in some ways kicking off my 2019 stitching retreat schedule. I am so grateful in my life that I am budget-wise, time-wise, logistically-wise, am able to envision that I'm going to Arizona for Stitch Shenanigans, put on by McKenna, that I will be going to StitchCon in June, and then inviting a whole bunch of other people to come and join me here in New Jersey and putting on the New Jersey retreat in August. And so this is a design that applies to any retreat. This does not say Stitch Shenanigans, it says Shenanigans. And I've seen this word come up so many times in so many ways when people are just talking about having a good time together. So if you're intrigued by any of this, if you're like, where can I get any of that? Well, I did my research, found websites, picked one in particular that works for me, where you can use a design and upload it, and they offer products like shirts and sweatshirts and t-shirts and tanks and various like apparel, but they also offer mugs and tote bags, notebooks, stickers, a few other items as well. So it is called Threadless, which is a little ironic since we're all about the thread. We're not less, we're more threads. So my artist shop is called worksbyabc.threadless.com. There will be a link below. And if you are interested in getting anything that has this on it, you can. And bring it to any retreats or not, just to have it. And just understand that the fun and the spirit that's involved with it. Part two of this is there will be a pattern forthcoming that gives you the same spirit, but if you want to stitch it. But this seemed just like a fun thing to have. I've put this out there first to the folks who are attending Stitch Shenanigans next week, and I know some people have ordered some items, and I imagine we'll be seeing some of the, I was going to point out, I thought this was kind of cool. The tote bag is printed on both sides. The mug, at least the travel mug version, is only printed on one side. I think that might be the same. They have different kinds of mugs. Oh, a heads up. The website, this is the only one that I found a little bit challenging. You have to like look under mugs, like as if you're getting a mug, and then under the options of mugs, you'll see travel mugs. So it's just not, like there's also water bottles, which has its own listing, but for whatever reason, travel mugs are under regular mugs. It would just be fun to see other folks having whatever items, whether it be wearing them or carrying them or using them in some way, in the fun and the spirit that the design was intended, at any retreat you wish. whether I see them next week in Arizona or at StitchCon in June, or folks in New Jersey here in August, or at any other time. It's just all in the fun. So, and I think many people who have attended certainly have attended any retreat, have joked about maybe not as much stitching goes on that they might then, not as much stitching goes on as they might think would go on. There is an awful lot of, oh my gosh, I love that pattern. Where'd you get it? Oh, I have to go to the store tomorrow. Let me get, oh, that thread. Oh my God. And then all the fun stuff that happens in all kinds of ways. So, needed to start with that. One of the things that I have been working on recently, if you have seen some Instagram posts just this past week, a new pattern has come out, but this is not one of my traditional pattern releases. This was a really fun collaboration. So this is a sampler done by Mary Hogg in 1830. And if you're looking and you're saying, that looks, that if you're just focused on this for the moment, that's looking familiar. Well, McKenna, Stitching in Sequins, I don't think it's a secret that the two of us are good friends. She purchased this sampler a few months back, fell in love with it online, just decided she needed to have it, and decided she wanted to reproduce it. And she and I have worked together on this. What I loved is that she didn't just say, here, Arlene, will you do this? Let's work out how we're going to make this happen. She wanted to be an active part in making this happen. When we were together on our San Francisco trip, I gave her a little lesson in charting using the software that I have. And so, and she compared it to like diamond painting on a computer. And so she did some of the basic work. Mary Hogg's sampler is mostly cross stitch. She used some specialty stitches. So McKenna did some of the basic, did the basic charting of the pattern, and then moved it over to me to do the next stage of the work, which is to say, turning some of those not cross stitches, those specialty stitches, into some information. So in this pattern, I have some background information about Mary, what we've been able to research about her, some close-up pictures, some stitch diagrams. Luckily, for those of you who are not, who like to stick directly with cross stitch, everything that Mary did can easily be converted into cross stitches. For example, she used some eyelet stitches, and all of the eyelets she used perfectly fit into 4 cross stitch spaces. So if you wanted to do the Mary Hogg pattern and just didn't want to do eyelets in every place, and you know, and I've written this, in every place where she does this, you could simply do that. Okay. And then it was fun to sort of do a little analysis. There was one point McKenna sends me a screenshot and says, this isn't working out. You know, the N she had extra space, and I'm double checking what McKenna's done, and like I couldn't see a mistake, and we kind of let it simmer, and then I'm studying more later on. What's going on here? And then I'm studying the close-up pictures I took. Well, we figured out that Mary kind of got in an extra eyelet stitch because she went outside her lines. It's fun to do this kind of detective work on samplers, as some people who've done sampler reproduction work have discovered. And so I've written up some of the things that we've discovered. There weren't too many. Mary was a pretty decent stitcher. I've written up a few of those things and how a stitcher could choose to be true to Mary or make it their own. And so you get all the background information and obviously chart. Now, this is a pattern that is sold exclusively through McKenna's online store, 1884 Stitchery. And so I will put a link below. This pattern is available through her. You can get it there. And for those who are coming to Arizona next week, there will be plenty of copies available. It was just a fun project to work on. So yes, a new Works by ABC pattern, but a different kind of Works by ABC pattern. And I'm going to refer to this in a moment, working on some of my own new patterns, but this was a nice, fun project to work on. And working on with a friend is something special. So 1884 Stitchery is where to go if you're interested in Mary Hogg. Oh, and then the other thing is Mary put in a lot of initials. This whole section right here are initials of a fair number of family members and then some mystery folks. But it's the kind of sampler where if you don't like that part, it's so easy to remove it. You know, if you want to insert initials of your own family member, if you want to put in your name, gosh, Mary's given you enough alphabets to choose from to put in your own name. So it's a great sampler to choose whether you want to reproduce it exactly as Mary did it, age 13 in 1830, or if you want to personalize it and make it your own. Those who stitch samplers, everyone's got their own likes of how they do those kinds of things. And one of the things I loved about this sampler, and one other thing, is that there's such flexibility to it. The other thing to note is the size. There are lots of samplers out there that are large. Mary is not super large. So I'm holding up right now what you can see. The stitch count is 97 by 242. So the original sampler is 6 3/8 inches by 16.5 inches, and that was on 30 count linen, or about. It's it's some of that funky old linen that's changes a little bit over time, but it's on the smaller size. So if you're looking for a sampler and like the look of Mary, and you want something a little bit smaller than some of the other ones that are out there, there you go. 1884 Stitches, Stitchery.com. All right, next thing on my list. Just last night, from when I'm recording this on Friday, I posted an FFO, a finish on, it's been finished for a few days, on Instagram. It's gotten lots of comments, and I wanted to definitely talk about it. I showed you the finish of it, but now I have it FFO'd, and I really want to highlight the ease of this FFOing job. So this is my gossamer lace and cross stitch project that I was just, and I didn't bring up the pattern, watch one of my previous videos. I was just doing the center part. So the whole thing is much bigger. I was just stitching to have a model of the center part to show how some of my larger designs, which is also true for plenty of other large designs out there, you can just pick out a piece and just stitch the piece. This is a wood frame, but it's finished using a hoop. I want to show you, there we go, Stay Home Stitches. She is on Etsy. She also has a website, www.stayhomestitches.com. Her Etsy store, I was just looking to make sure I'm saying the correct information. The notice on her Etsy store right now says she's trying to transition. I ordered through Etsy, but she's also transitioning to do more using her website. I am so impressed with this, and I'd like to share this all with you, her idea, her concept, and then the execution of her concept. I encountered her on a Facebook group for Etsy sellers, and I was like, wow. This was a couple months ago, I think, when I already had the idea that I was going to be stitching this, and I certainly kept in the back of my mind of this is going to be a great way to finish something that I want to use for a model, meaning I want to have a nice frame to it. You can go and get a hoop, but you can go and get a nice hoop in lots of places. This is a step up from that if you're looking for something. So this is so easy to assemble. I'm actually going to disassemble it in front of you. So when you order from her, you can choose the size of the hoop. You can choose the shape of the wood. So this wood frame, I think the word is the lip. Like this is a shape. You could get one that's more curves up or, you know, has a, I don't have the wording correctly in frame language. I chose this, okay? You can choose the color. She's got something like 15 colors listed, or you can simply choose custom and then write in, please paint it the color of DMC number blah, blah, blah. I asked for DMC color 161. Spot on. You all see that? There was an Instagram post I put up a few weeks back. I guess when I'd actually finished the stitching, and I'd actually laid out, I think it was 161 and 162 or two of these, and I was just sort of getting people's opinions. This was why. And so very nice. You get 3 pieces, and it's custom work, so it took her 2 or 3 weeks, and it came exactly when it said it did. It's just not an overnight thing. So 2 or 3 weeks. You get this wooden piece. You get the thick, what is this stuff called? I don't know what this stuff is called. You know, it's not cardboard. It's not plywood. You know, can you tell by the sound I'm making what it is? Perfectly to fit. And you get a hoop. Now the hoop is, I would say it's thinner than a typical hoop. I mean, it's a hoop size to work with her product. So I wouldn't exactly say it's the same hoop that I'd get going to Michael's. I mean, it's a good quality hoop that's thinner than the hoops that I think I would usually see. Okay. So now I still think it's like I take a ruler, I'm like, that's even, but it still looks uneven. So I keep thinking I'm going to fix this up a little bit. So put it in the hoop. I chose to, do a quick running stitch. I put a piece of batting here just because my fabric is a white or an off-white. You don't really need to do it. I might, well, yeah. I did a quick running stitch just to pull the fabric in. You don't need to do that part, but literally it's mounted in a hoop like this. Okay, that hoop is literally meant to fit. Like, see how she's cut out the wood, the part of the wood right here fits the screw of the hoop. Okay. Then you take this part, you lay it down right on top here, and using the little, oh my God, words today, people. Boom, done. Done. If I'm hanging this up, nail in the wall, and I can hang it right like that. I will, have need to have it on display for trunk shows. I might get, one of those like a plate stand kind of thing that you could get at a store, just so I could, I have a couple around here anyway. This high quality, easy assembly, very impressed. So Stay at Home Stitches. She is currently having, you can follow her on Instagram. There's currently a sale going on through the month of through the month of April. So I'm assuming till April 30th. That I was just looking at it. It's buy one frame, get one 50% off. And she's doing it to raise money. And there's a picture of a dog. And I think the dog needs surgery. The dog is a service dog, and it's to raise money for the surgery that the service dog needs. So all the more reason to support her and buy frames from her. She also has on her site some needle minders, some other stitching related items, but these frames are just awesome. So again, if you are looking for a round finish, she also has oval hoops. If you are looking for a finish, it literally can't get any easier than that. I mean, you just saw me, in effect, unassemble and reassemble this. So, yeah, I highly recommend the quality, everything. And again, it took 2.5, 3 weeks, but exactly the timing, whatever it told me the time would be, that's when it came. So, all as expected. So, highly recommend her. What have I been stitching on? Well, there are 2 things I've been stitching on that I can't share with you right now. 2 secret stitching things. One of them related to Stitch Nanigans, one of them related to new patterns that I'm working on, but I'm going to share with you two other things that I can share with you. One, again, if you follow me on Instagram, you saw this. This is the definition of see something, get obsessed with it, and just do it. 2 weekends ago, I saw, it was on a Facebook group, and it wasn't even a cross-stitch it was a stitching Facebook group, but it wasn't even cross-stitch focused. Someone who posted, I just found this bag at Target and it looks like I can cross-stitch on it. What do you all think? And I just thought, that's genius. And then when I started searching, Target in cross-stitch Facebook groups, I saw it had been posted in some of the other groups. So some other people might have seen this before I did. I got myself to Target basically the very next day. And it took me a bit to find this because I was expecting, the clue I had is that it was only $7. So it seemed odd to go like to the handbag, tote bag area, which was the wrong place to go. It was in the dollar spot, like the dollar area, which is not just $1. It's items starting at $1 area, right when you first walk into Target. And the person who had posted, I think, had 3 different colors of them. The Target I went to only had black, and this is like an off-white. But sure enough, it has holes that are like perfectly on a grid. And I was like, I have to do this. So I bought this $7 bag, and then I was like, what am I going to do with it? Well, I looked at my own patterns. This is Lady Evelyn's Filet Lace. Counted out the distance from, what's a reasonable starting place to a reasonable stopping place was something like 55 or 58 or something. So that was my limitation. I forget what it was this way, but I remember that number. And I decided that the center part of this square would make for a nice geometric design. I took out some pearl cotton number 5. I suppose if I had some thicker stuff, I suppose you could get yarn. Do I have yarn? I suppose you could get something thicker. I think pearl number 5 is probably as thick as I had stitching wise. It gives a very open look. But within 3 days I had this stitched up. It was like, I have to do this. I got a few questions when I posted about it. The first question being, did I stitch through the lining? No, I did not. There is a very, very cheapy you could hear it, plasticky lining here. I cut open a little bit up here, but then I realized a better location was to cut open from the side. And I haven't even bothered sewing it up yet. I probably should. If I'm going to use the bag and put stuff in here, I should sew up the inside so that it doesn't like totally rip apart. I just haven't done that yet. So I cut open the lining and I basically worked with, sort of one hand inside and one hand outside. That was just the way to do. Actually, my right hand was on the inside and my left hand was on the outside. But it was just like, I just had to do this. Now, people did post that there was also a smaller, people refer to it as like a makeup bag or a smaller bag that goes with it, same thing. And I did see, it was from my needlework group, someone brought to share with me that the same fake leathery, whatever this plasticky leathery stuff is, faux leather tote bag made with non-leather material. And I counted out, and I couldn't picture what I would stitch on there. I was having a hard enough time finding something that I would put this on, or that I'd put on this. It's sort of like I did it, and then I was like, okay, done. I did it. Then I will say, just the following weekend, which was last weekend, I went, now granted it was to a different Target, and the whole dollar spot area was totally different. It was all Easter. So I don't know if you can still get these bags. It begs the question, what does Target do with all, like, not so much the holiday oriented, Easter or Valentine's. It's not so much those things, but just the things that for whatever reason they're moving out of the dollar spot area. What do they do with that stuff? I mean, is there some giant Target clearance place that you could go to? I don't know. But if this intrigues you, it was such an easy thing to stitch on, and it was just so random and different. And in those few days, it was exactly what I needed to be doing. Something random and different. And I did it. I stitched on a tote bag. So there you go. And then the other thing I got going, partially because I wanted to get going, and I also thought this is a good project to have to work on at the retreat for however much stitching is actually going to happen at the retreat. One of the patterns I came out with in January is called What Lies Within Us. What lies behind us and what lies before us are small matters compared to what lies within us. I love this quote. I love the border. The border comes from like a turn of the century, it's not quite Victorian when it's like 1900, 1910, but they're Edwardian, is that, I guess we're, whatever. I wanted to make a model of this. The colors that I've charted here are new DMC colors, and in particular, these two shades. This is numbers 28 and 29, which I loved. So here's my start. Little matters compared to what lies within us. So there's my start. On this is on a 36 count. The color is called raw linen. And I'm doing it on 36 count because this is the size, if you would all remember when I shared this is the size that will fit perfectly nicely in an 8x10 frame. So easy framing in terms of just being able to go and get any old frame. It'll work out to be just about 7 inches by 9 inches, so a nice 1-inch margin around. Over using only one strand of floss. So this is a pattern, or this is a fabric, this is a whatever, using DMC. One strand is looking beautiful to me on a 36 count, over 2. One strand over 2. If the yellows look different, they do. I was auditioning at one point up to 5 different yellows. This one still, that one is, these 3 are the same. And I'm pretty sure that's the color I'm going with. And I just haven't pulled out that one yet. I think, but what I really decided was I'm going to put in the butterfly and make final decisions on the yellow based on the butterfly, and then I'll have a definite idea. So that's a stitching project that I got started recently, and will come to Arizona with me. All right, next on the list, some time back, I know I shared this with all of you. I couldn't even tell you how long ago it was. But I just got the latest follow-up, and it's such a cool project. I just need to share it with you further. This is Alphabet Sampler, which I designed based off of marking samplers from the Westtown School. And I did the sizing when done on 32 count over 2. Fits very nicely. If you do one square on the 4x4 cubes that, quote, were all the rage when a lot of people were buying those cubes from the dollar store, from the Dollar Tree, which are actually, I think, better cubes than what you get when you go to Michael's or Joann's or one of them, because it's not a 4x4x4. It's actually 4x4 by like 3 or something, and it looks nicer. It's just got better dimensions. And I had shared with you that there was a sampler guild. It's actually the Magnolia Sampler Guild in Georgia that the workshop person had contacted me, and they had I thought, a fabulous idea for a workshop. I worked with them. They did a bulk purchase so that everyone who was interested in the project purchased a copy of this pattern. Everyone stitched a square, mostly using their own initial. Some chose to do a stitching on the back side. A couple of them chose actually this design, which comes from the Westtown samplers. And then they were having a finishing workshop on how to finish using those cubes. And so I've gotten some pictures of that finishing workshop. So just to share with you the variety of what, what they have done down there. It's just wonderful. I love that the thought and the idea from the woman who contacted me. So here they're having actually the workshop of here's how you can use one of these cubes to, and if you've watched, a number of people put out like their own little versions of tutorials of how to finish using these cubes. And so they used this as a perfect workshop for their members. And everyone sort of did, here's someone who chose some letters and then used the two birds. So the stitching aspect was whatever you wanted to make from it. The finishing aspect was learn how to use these cubes that cost all of $1. And they're going to have a display, I think she said in September, where these cubes, along with a number of other items, will be on display. I just think it was a phenomenal idea, and kudos to them for the creativity involved in coming up with a project like that. So I just wanted the opportunity to share with all of you. All right. Would you like to hear about some books? First book thing to share with you is really Stitchy Kindness. And my sweet, sweet Diana, it is Kismet. If you think you hear that name a lot on Flosstube videos with people saying thanks, there's a reason. Diana is amazingly, she's a giver. And she has graciously given me some books that she has, I think, the way she just didn't want to use, didn't think she would use anymore. Patterns from 17th and 18th centuries. This one is Spanish samplers. I'm just doing a little flip through here. And this one, English samplers. These are fascinating books. So much interesting information. Hard to find when I was Googling them. I was curious, you could see this one says book 2 and book 3, which begs the question, what's book 1 and are there others? There is a book 4, and there isn't one that's called book 1, and I assume it's the case when the author was doing it, she didn't realize she was going to be doing others. So I'm making an assumption that, oh, that one must be what is referred to as book 1. They're hard to find. And I am so lucky that Diana offered these to me. She knows how much I love books, how much I appreciate history, how much I put together the history and the stitching. And these definitely go in my treasures, in my collection of reference materials. And I appreciate the kindness so much. So thank you, Diana. You know that. I appreciate you in so many ways. I also realized in my last Flosstube, which had so much trouble uploading, so for those of you who patiently sat through like 4, I think, notifications of it being up before it was really up, it was like right after I stopped. I think I even towards the end had said, am I forgetting anything? And then right after I ended it, I realized one thing I had wanted to say, and it was sort of like, this is not enough to make me add on a clip. But I've shared in the past with you that I volunteer at a very large book sale every year. It is billed as the largest used book sale on the East Coast. Who keeps track of those things? I don't know, but it's a really large used book sale. And my volunteer time, I choose to volunteer during the setup days rather than the sale days. It's just what works best for me. And I admit it's also the selfish side of I get first dibs at books. I am in charge of the hobby section. I have been in charge of the hobby section for years now. And books are collected all year long. They get new books every year, like they start fresh every year. They are collected, they are put into storage in boxes. They're sorted in categories, and history and fiction and mystery and children's and hobbies and so on. They come in to the space that is rented out for about a week and a half. It's a school that's on spring break that they use. And so boxes are delivered by a moving company, and they come like where my tables are for hobbies. And my task is to unpack all those boxes, to sort them, because hobbies, unlike, mystery, it's just unpack the boxes and set them up. Literally set up the books. Hobbies is organized to some degree, because hobbies includes like stitching and knitting and needlepoint and all of that, but it also includes like crossword puzzles and Sudoku and puzzles and games and chess and backgammon, and it also includes like painting and drawing and art. So it's really a catch-all category, and I take the time to at least generally organize it. So every box I open, it's like a treasure hunt. You never know what you're going to find. And, it's also appreciated. There's a lot of older volunteers, a lot of retirees. And so they appreciate people who can lift boxes and can lift piles of books, which I do. So that was happening right like the week after the last video I created, and I was just going to mention that it was coming up. And so I, as typical, collected quite a number of books to set aside for myself to purchase. I probably had about 20 or so books. Then, in addition to that, also a fair number of children's books. I basically collect a whole bunch of books every year and then divvy them out to my niece and nephews over the course of the year, and I'm the book auntie because of that. So I'm just going to show you a few of them. There was no like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing, great finds this year, but every year there's just some fun things. This is Treasures. This is a reproduction, first published in 1870. Treasures in Needlework, a priceless book of nostalgia, an authentic reprint covering every area of fancy and ornamental needlework. Now, I don't know. It reminded me a little bit. If you have that book right there, is Therese Dillmont's The Complete Encyclopedia. It's another one of these that becomes reprints, and you can find there are patterns in here. I don't know if there'll be anything I'll ever take from it, but it's always fun. And I did love. You just gotta love the opening page here. To lady needleworkers throughout the world, this book is dedicated by the authors in the hope that it may aid in the production of those ornamental and useful articles that add elegance to the boudoir and yield a profit to the fancy fair. So the question is, have you been adding elegance to your boudoir with your stitching? The XYZs of canvas embroidery, this comes from Old Sturbridge Village, if you're familiar with that area in Massachusetts. The majority of the book is a stitch book, like needlepoint stitches, which alone was not interesting to me. But the beginning, the information at the... Sorry, we got the glare thing going on. The information at the beginning, all kinds of good stuff. So that alone, I was glad to get it. And Sturbridge Village always has like some good stuff. I forget whether this came into me at hobbies or whether, because I always make sure there's a decorative arts category, and so every so often there's some books in my area that I bring over to decorative arts because they're just better there, and the decorative arts lady brings some over to me. And I always look at the arts books, and those are like a lot of coffee table art books and stuff. I forget where I picked this one up, but I thought this was cool. The Daily Book of Art. Every page is a different something. It's either a style of art, an artist, just something. New York City garbage. Like, I've barely even read any of these books, and I'm already, like, intrigued. So, there's a side of me wonders how my life would be different if I had been like an art history major. You know, it wasn't part of my possibilities or realms when I was in college or considering it, but it's certainly something I think about from time to time now. Anyway, wouldn't it be cool if I, you know, set myself on a read 1 page a day kind of thing? It'll be more like a read a few pages at a time. This was fascinating. I know I've referenced before Nordic Needle. The store itself is closed now. The website is still out there. The original owners, Sue Meyer and Rosalind Watimo, they're big of hardanger style. They started doing contests for hardanger. I don't know whether 1981 was the first, but pretty early on. I'd have to look up. But so I saw this, and this was like a no-brainer. Oh my gosh, hardanger from Sue and Roz? I gotta grab that. I didn't even look at it. I'm like, hardanger, Sue and Roz, yes. When I was actually looking at it when I got it home, there are no diagrams in here. Now I have so they would have a contest every year, and they continued this up until they sold the store. Like they sold the store to their employees. Sue retired, but still had a stake in it. But they sold the store in 2014, 15, 16, somewhere in that neighborhood. I went to the 2013 Nordic Needle Retreat, and Roz was still there. So sometime past 2013. And they were still doing the contest at that point. So I have some of more recent years. And in those recent books, you know, they would have, you know, here's a doily that won first place. And then, you know, here's the picture and a little biography. And then on the very next page, there'd be some charting diagrams. And there might even be some close-up pictures. But basically in the beginning, I mean, I guess I could say it like this. If you understand hardanger enough, these close-up pictures is almost enough for you to be able to reproduce this if you wanted to. You could, if you understand, I mean, the cloister blocks don't vary really too much in size. You could count out and you could know, all right, yep, I could do, you could do this. I feel like, at least the few that I stopped and looked at, if I really wanted to, I could reproduce it just from these pictures. I mean, it's kind of fascinating to think about, but at least in the beginning, they were creating these booklets, and it does say, they give you finished size and materials. If you have any questions or comments about any of the designs, please write directly to the designer, and they've given addresses for each of these designers. I just think that was really interesting to discover. Okay. Quite a few times people have sent me messages, you know, private messages or whatever. They're in a thrift store or an antique store. Look, Arlene, you do that bobbin lace thing, right? Here's something that's labeled bobbins. Are you interested in them? And what they're looking at are bobbins that come from, here's a nice big open spread, big machinery. And the world of wooden bobbin. Like, who knew there was a book? The story of old wooden textile bobbins, their place in history, in the hands of the collector, and in the home. So, I haven't read it yet, but boy, am I all prepared for the next time somebody sends me a picture. I'm going to be all ready to look it up and see if I can, like, find out information about it. Don't worry, I'm not going to get started on collecting these. I don't have the space or the mindset or anything like that to start collecting these. But if any of you collect them and want me to share some insight from this book, I'm happy to. I'm just so glad somebody created a book that because there's clearly these bobbins are out there in the world. And then the last book I wanted to share with you from the sale, there were more, but this is just the pile that I pulled up to share with you. Celebrity Needlepoint. Now, you need to put this in perspective. The copyright date was 1972. There's no patterns in here. This is like just featuring famous celebrities. 1972, you betcha Rosie Greer is in here. And if you don't know who I'm talking about, Rosie Greer was the football player who, from the 1970s, I don't know his exact dates, but like I think he had his own needlepoint book, Real Men Needlepoint or something like that. So on page 49, you betcha you got Rosie Greer there needlepointing. The celebrities here, there are a few names I recognize. Julie Eisenhower, the daughter of President Eisenhower. Ann B. Davis. Do we have any Brady Bunch fans in the room? Or on Flosstube? You know, yeah, okay. Alice, she needlepointed. She's in the book. Grace, Princess Grace from Monaco. She's in the book. What other names? There's a lot of names I don't recognize. Mary Tyler Moore, yes. Betty White, I think these are just alphabetical, so Betty White is the last one. Let me actually, you know what I will do? So let me hold this up so you can look at the list yourself and decide whether you how many names you recognize. Oh, Janet Leigh. She was the woman from the Psycho movie, right? The actress from Psycho. And there's more on that page. But as I was flipping through here, you gotta always keep an open mind because you can be surprised. I'm flipping through. I hit someone I didn't recognize the name. A woman named Lynn Revson. How is she a celebrity? Her husband is the head of Revlon. Does that make her a celebrity? We could have a whole discussion about that. Why am I telling you? Why did I stop? Because 1972, they put a picture in here, and I'm pretty impressed they let this picture in here. I think my Flosstube is known for pretty clean language, so just be aware that a picture's about to come up. Nobody loves a smartass. Yep. Lynn Revson's favorite, this is her favorite needlepoint, is taken from a frequent expression of her husband, Charles. She has stitched the same design in 3 different colors for his Revlon office. I love it. And at the end of each of these, they have listed the stitcher's favorite, and that's listed as a favorite. And another one, she's done other ones, quotes of her husband. And one of them is, "Oh Lord, give me a bastard with talent." And now, after that one, she stitched a companion one that says, "Oh Lord, I hope my prayers are answered." I don't know what it's going to be like, what it was like working for her husband, but I don't know, his wife got a good sense of humor on her. But I want to say, good for the editors of this book in 1972 for letting that one in there. Good for them. But this is just a fun read, fun and silly. Last book related thing, not from the book sale, but related from my last Flosstube. I shared with you all about going to the Winchester Mystery House, and I talked a little bit about how much was true and wanting to know more. I just wanted to share with you that I did get from Interlibrary Loan, and I'm currently reading. It's called Captive of the Labyrinth. It is Sarah Winchester, Heiress to the Rifle Fortune, by Mary Jo Ignofo. It is published in 2010, pretty much the only biography that has ever really been written about her. And I just need to say this. It's like an academic piece, like researched, primary sources. You know, a number of people have commented about the wanting to go there and so interested in it and fascinated by it, and I don't want to like burst your bubble here, but so much of the story you get here seems to be a story, and I'm just going to leave it at that. If you want go with the story and love the story and want to believe that, go with it. But if you are like me and are interested in more, get yourself a copy of this book. I mean, like I'm a big fan of libraries, so I didn't order it on Amazon. I asked the library to get me a copy of it, and they did. And it's interesting reading. Just it's interesting to, you know. And one thing, this woman in their introduction, she talked about how she was asked by a local like historian, "Will you write a biography? You will do the research. You will do it right." And how are all these stories of Sarah Winchester perpetuated? Well, the place opened in 1923 as a tourist attraction. It's had literally almost 100 years as a tourist attraction to build up the story it has. And the story isn't based on very many facts. And before then, there are newspaper articles of this like crazy woman building a house, but none of the newspaper articles were based on facts. And she does say, you know, this book uses primary source documents to place her in real life. She emerges as a far more compelling person than a mere comical anecdote to the Winchester rifle story. When she was meeting with the grandchildren, either the son and the grandchildren of the one of the main people who worked at the house, even as he generously shared photos, letters, and documents with me, he doubted that anyone would believe or buy this book. The truth doesn't sell, he warned. This daunting challenge to a would-be biographer appeared to ring only too true, as thousands paid to tour the, quote, haunted house and patronize the movies, stage plays, and art exhibits that keep Winchester bound in a strictly marketable costume. Up till now, Sarah Winchester has been left to stand, all 58 inches of her, devoid of the setting, scenery, characters, and events of her actual lifetime. It is no wonder that she comes across as odd when she is so one-dimensional. During her life and since her death, she has been consistently viewed out of context. There's so many pieces of this that are really interesting. If you are the kind that is interested beyond the, quote, stories, I just encourage you to get yourself a copy of this book. One last little thing, just to share, I started a new lace project, and I just wanted to show it to you because I've never had the opportunity to show to you working on a small lace pillow. This is my small lace pillow, and why am I working on the small? And I can't even tilt it to show you the lace at this point. This turns, so I can't. Sorry, words are not coming very well. I can't. All right. Because I didn't pin this down, because I didn't pin the bobbins down, I can't even show this well. But I was trying to just share with you that I started a small lace project on a small lace pillow. And why did I do that? Because I have been asked by a few people if I could bring bobbin lace to Stitch Nanigans. I love the opportunity to be able to share something that I love. And so in order to do that, I knew I needed to start something on a small pillow. And so that's why I have something started. I hope to get it a little further before I leave next week. All right. So this turned out to be longer than I thought it would. Thank you, as always, for sticking with me. I so appreciate this Flosstube community being here with you all for 2 years now. Has just been wonderful. Thank you all so much for the likes and the comments and just for being here. Until next time.